How many years will Diddy really spend behind bars? That's the question flooding headlines right now. As Sean Diddy Combs faces the darkest chapter of his career, imagine this: one of the world's most powerful music moguls, who built an empire worth hundreds of millions, now sits alone in a jail cell, stripped of his designer suits and celebrity entourage, awaiting a sentence that could redefine his entire life. Just days ago, the courtroom erupted with gasps as the jury announced its decision. Diddy, who once walked red carpets with unbreakable confidence, was found guilty on 2 serious counts, while he narrowly escaped the heaviest charges that could have locked him away for life. The convictions he did receive might still mean years behind bars. Outside the courthouse, fans cheered his name, celebrating what they saw as a partial victory. But inside, victims wept, feeling justice had once again slipped away. Yet here's the real twist: this sentencing is only the beginning, because what awaits Diddy beyond prison walls, the lawsuits, the betrayals, the secrets about to unravel, could destroy everything he's ever built. And what happens next might just shock the world. Diddy's fall from grace didn't happen overnight. Behind every flashing camera and champagne toast lay decades of rumors and whispers that never quite reached the spotlight. But now, it's all crashing down. Just last week, inside a packed Manhattan federal courtroom, the jury reached its verdict after 3 days of tense deliberations. For hours, reporters and supporters waited in suffocating silence, until the foreperson finally read the decision that would shake hip-hop's foundations. Diddy was acquitted of the heaviest charges, racketeering and sex trafficking charges, that could have caged him for the rest of his life. Yet, the relief in his eyes was fleeting, because moments later came the conviction: guilty on 2 counts of transporting women across state lines for illicit purposes. Each of these counts carries up to 10 years in federal prison, 20 years in total. And while legal experts argue he might not serve the maximum, even half that sentence would mean watching his empire crumble from behind steel bars. But the sentencing date, set for October, is only part of this unraveling saga, because what prosecutors revealed during this trial wasn't just about a crime. It exposed a lifestyle so dark that even his most loyal fans were left speechless. And what was uncovered about his secret world is only beginning to leak. As the courtroom emptied that day, with reporters racing to file breaking headlines, Diddy sat motionless in his chair. For a man who once commanded stages worldwide, who built Bad Boy Records into a multi-million-dollar kingdom, the sight was almost surreal. He stared blankly at the floor while his legal team whispered urgently in his ear, strategizing the next desperate move. Outside, fans were split. Some chanted "Free Puff" with tears in their eyes, holding up hastily printed signs, hoping their loyalty might somehow reverse the verdict. But others stood in silent fury, shaking their heads at the man they once idolized, now exposed for deeds no Grammy could overshadow. Yet what stunned even seasoned journalists wasn't just the conviction itself, it was the sinister world prosecutors unveiled during the 7-week trial. Witness after witness painted a picture of Diddy's life that was far removed from his public persona of motivational mogul and king of parties. The court heard how he allegedly orchestrated private gatherings where his partners were forced into humiliating acts. They described nights drenched in baby oil, with escorts lined up like silent dolls under flashing neon lights. And in the middle of it all was Diddy, not just attending, but controlling, watching, commanding. Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend and now star witness, revealed details so graphic the courtroom fell silent. Her voice didn't shake. She looked straight at Diddy as she recounted how he would fly her across states, promising luxurious getaways, only to trap her in drug-fueled nightmares. When she finished, even the prosecution team sat still, absorbing the gravity of what had just been said. But what Cassie triggered with her testimony was more powerful than any judge's gavel. Her words opened a floodgate. More than 50 civil suits now stand lined up against Diddy, men and women coming forward with allegations, ranging from sexual assault to physical violence and forced drugging. Each suit carries years of hidden pain, while each story chips away at the golden image he spent decades curating. And while he was acquitted of sex trafficking, the federal conviction for transporting women for prostitution has ensured that his legal troubles are far from over. Because sentencing isn't the final chapter, it's only the beginning. But the most chilling part of this entire saga isn't just the crimes themselves, it's what insiders say about how Diddy wielded his power to keep everyone silent for so long. Rumors have always swirled around the music industry's darker corners, but prosecutors laid bare how Diddy allegedly bought that silence with brutal efficiency. Witnesses described NDAs shoved in front of them minutes after traumatic encounters, massive settlements wired within hours to ensure nothing leaked, luxury cars, designer handbags, and black Amex cards handed out like hush money tokens. One former employee told investigators that if anyone dared question his behavior, they'd be fired on the spot. No explanations, no severance, just erased, as if they never existed. And for aspiring artists or backup dancers desperate for a break, the threat was even more sinister. Their entire career could vanish overnight. Behind the scenes, Diddy allegedly surrounded himself with a tight inner circle who enforced his rules like a personal security army. They screened visitors, confiscated phones at the door, and made sure every private party remained private forever. But it wasn't just his staff protecting him. Many of his industry peers, it seems, looked away, chalking it up to celebrity lifestyle, ignoring the warning signs others were too afraid to speak aloud. But Cassie shattered that code of silence. Her testimony didn't just detail her trauma, it exposed an entire ecosystem built to enable one man's twisted desires. And while her initial civil lawsuit ended in a $20 million settlement, her decision to testify in criminal court flipped the script. No amount of money could buy back what was unleashed once she took the stand. Now, the empire he built with platinum albums, vodka brands, and million-dollar parties is crumbling brick by brick. Major brands have begun quietly severing deals. Streaming services are reviewing his catalog for removal, and his fan base, once fiercely loyal, has fractured into a war zone of believers and outraged critics. But the most haunting question remains. If these allegations went on for decades without consequence, who else in the industry is hiding behind wealth and fame right now? Because this isn't just Diddy's reckoning, and while Diddy sits in his cell awaiting sentencing, the outside world is exploding with questions no one thought would ever be asked about him. Fans who once idolized him for revolutionizing hip-hop, with Bad Boy Records, are now rewatching old interviews, dissecting every cryptic quote and uncomfortable laugh from former protégés. People are realizing that what once sounded like harmless industry gossip might have been silent cries for help buried in plain sight. One resurfaced clip shows a young artist nervously joking about how nobody says no to Puff. The audience laughed back then. Today, those words land like a punch to the gut. But what shocked investigators wasn't just what happened at his infamous mansion parties, it was how systemized everything allegedly was. Prosecutors detailed a playbook used to vet and transport women, ensuring no loose ends and no leaks. Private jets arranged to bypass public terminals, hotels booked under fake names, bodyguards trained to deflect questions. The entire operation hidden behind the glimmer of five-star luxury and diamond-studded events. And yet, even with all that calculated secrecy, it only took one voice to begin tearing it apart. Cassie's bravery triggered over 50 civil lawsuits against Diddy, each one echoing stories of coercion, drugging, and abuse. Some claims go back to decades, painting a haunting portrait of a man who allegedly believed he was untouchable. But here's what truly sent chills down the public's spine. Despite dozens of lawsuits and deeply disturbing testimony, the crowd outside the courthouse still erupted in cheers when the racketeering and trafficking charges were dismissed. Supporters danced, sprayed baby oil in celebration, and screamed, "Free Puff." It exposed an uncomfortable truth about fame, that for some fans, loyalty runs deeper than morality, no matter how dark the allegations. Because for every victim stepping forward, there are thousands still defending their idol, unwilling to see the man behind the brand. And if Diddy's downfall isn't enough to wake up the industry, then the question is, who will be next to fall before they start listening? Behind the cold courtroom walls, Diddy's legal team is scrambling to soften the blow. His attorneys argue that these convictions shouldn't trigger mandatory detention because he isn't a danger to society. But the judge didn't flinch. He ruled that someone with Diddy's level of wealth and private jets at his disposal could vanish overnight if granted bail. And that's exactly what prosecutors feared. Because the reality is, a man worth hundreds of millions has the power to disappear across borders, living in countries with no extradition treaties. For them, keeping him behind bars was the only way to guarantee justice for his alleged victims. Meanwhile, Diddy sits alone in his cell, replaying every decision that brought him here. The platinum records, the parties, the countless magazine covers, declaring him king of hip-hop. None of it matters now. Prosecutors say they're pushing for a sentence over the midline, potentially 5 years or more. His defense team, on the other hand, argues for barely 2 years, claiming his convictions are misunderstood and overcharged. But here's what most people don't realize. Even if he only serves a few years, his empire might never recover. Brands have already begun severing ties. Former allies are ghosting him. Artists he once mentored are deleting photos and distancing their legacies from his tainted name. For a mogul obsessed with image, this might be the harshest punishment of all. But this is far from over, because in the shadows of his sentencing looms something potentially far worse. More than 50 civil lawsuits stacked and waiting, each ready to expose another layer of what really went on behind his guarded mansion gates. And if you think that criminal court was damaging, what these lawsuits could reveal might shatter the entire music industry's illusion of glamour for good. But that's not the end, because the darkest revelations might still be coming. As Diddy counts down the days to his October sentencing, whispers are echoing through courtrooms and record labels alike. Because what these 50-plus civil lawsuits contain isn't just about prostitution, charges, or escort transportation. They dig into the darkest corners of his empire, allegations of manipulation, coercion, and psychological torment, stretching back decades. It all started with Cassie Ventura, the woman who first cracked his pristine facade. Her testimony wasn't just about personal abuse. It unveiled an entire system built to keep victims silent. Now, her courage has unleashed a tidal wave. Each lawsuit carries a different voice. Some claim he destroyed their careers for rejecting his advances, others allege secret recordings of encounters used as blackmail to keep them quiet. Insiders say that if even a fraction of these claims prove true, it could lead to historic payouts and permanent exile from the music business. The lawsuits describe coded threats, quiet payoffs, and life-altering trauma, painting a chilling portrait of power wielded like a weapon behind closed doors. And while these claims remain unproven in court, they've already started poisoning his legacy in the court of public opinion. Former collaborators are deleting songs featuring his name, sponsorship deals are gone overnight, even club owners have stopped playing his classic hits, afraid of backlash from a public that wants him erased. But this might just be the beginning, because in the shadows of these lawsuits lurk names and details that could drag in other major industry giants who once partied alongside him, risking an avalanche of exposure for the entire celebrity ecosystem. And if you think this is the extent of his downfall, wait until you hear about the psychological spiral he's been going through behind bars, because the mind of a fallen king is often darker than his crimes. Locked away in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, Diddy is no longer the king who strutted across stages in diamond chains and silk suits. Guards describe him as withdrawn, staring at the peeling paint on his cell walls for hours, barely speaking to anyone except his attorneys. Sources close to his team whispered that he's experiencing severe panic episodes, jolting awake at night in cold sweats, haunted by the possibility of spending years behind bars. For a man who built his empire on control, the total loss of freedom has become an unthinkable nightmare, and while his lawyers scramble to reduce his sentence 2 months instead of years, Diddy himself seems to be spiraling internally. Insiders claim he's refusing visitors, including family members, too ashamed to let them see him like this. Some say he believes he's been cursed by the very people he wronged, that every lawsuit, every betrayal, and every leak is karmic justice returning with a vengeance. But here's the chilling reality. His story is far from over, because while he remains locked away, the world outside is sharpening its knives for what's coming next. Section 2 will unravel how Diddy's empire is collapsing piece by piece, from cancelled business deals to celebrities quietly cutting ties to save themselves, and why his October sentencing might only be the start of his public execution. While Diddy sits alone behind bars, his empire on the outside is rotting faster than anyone expected. In the first 48 hours after his guilty verdict, major brands quietly pulled out of deals worth millions. CROC, his premium vodka line that once dominated club tables from Miami to Dubai, has seen a sharp plunge in distribution orders. Insiders revealed that liquor distributors are refusing to carry products branded under his name until further notice. It doesn't end there. Revolt TV, the music network he founded to empower black creators, issued a vague statement distancing itself from his legal troubles. Behind closed doors, board members are reportedly discussing a complete rebrand, wiping his name from all leadership and brand materials to salvage future ad revenue. Fashion lines, sponsorships, even his real estate investments all frozen in a single week. For years, he flaunted his luxury lifestyle on Instagram, from private jets to dinners, but now, those same posts are being used by critics as evidence of arrogance, fueling calls for harsher punishment and boycotts. Because to the public, it's no longer just about what he did in private, it's about what he represented in public, and why that facade is finally crumbling. But this was only the first ripple in the tidal wave about to hit him next. Diddy's world was built on alliances. From rap icons to Hollywood elites, his network was untouchable. But since the guilty verdict dropped, his inner circle has gone radio silent, and some are outright cutting ties in public. Music executives who once fought to sign under his label are now scrubbing his name from upcoming projects. Multiple hip-hop producers told Rolling Stone anonymously that they fear backlash if seen supporting him, describing him as radioactive to careers right now. Even his closest allies, like DJ Khaled and French Montana, have avoided mentioning him. On social media, industry gossip suggests many are under silent pressure from PR teams to stay away, fearing association could spark fan outrage and brand withdrawals. Meanwhile, rising artists who dreamed of the bad boy cosign are quietly celebrating his downfall. For years, he was accused of exploiting young talent with unfair contracts, but his reputation kept them silent. Now, anonymous posts on artist forums are flooding in, calling this downfall karma overdue. One source close to his team revealed a chilling reality: his phone barely rings anymore. The flood of daily calls, invitations, and requests have dried to a lonely trickle, replaced by curt legal updates from his attorneys and damage control memos from his crisis PR agency. He built a kingdom where power meant everything, But with every headline, every unreturned call, every silent former friend, that power is dissolving, and as this empire of influence collapses, an even darker truth is emerging about the legal battles he still faces, battles that could strip away everything he spent decades building. Behind the courtroom bars, Diddy's future looks bleak, but outside, another tidal wave is rising. The civil lawsuits, over 50 individuals have now filed cases against him, each claiming horrific abuse that spans decades. It started with Cassie Ventura in 2023, her $20 million settlement sent shockwaves through the music industry, but what was seen as closure back then has turned out to be the opening floodgate for others. Since Cassie's testimony in his criminal trial, more than 50 men and women have stepped forward with their own accusations. They allege sexual abuse, drugging, manipulation, coercion, and savage physical violence. One lawsuit details how he allegedly forced victims into humiliating acts at his private freak-off parties, events shrouded in secrecy where phones were banned, and silence was enforced through threats. Reports claim that in recent weeks, additional lawsuits have been filed, and lawyers expect the number to grow. Douglas Wigder, Cassie's attorney, called her testimony a thunderclap that shattered Diddy's protective wall of fame and intimidation. For many of these alleged victims, the federal conviction was only a partial victory. They want him to lose everything he used to exert power over them: his money, his homes, his music empire, his brand deals. Attorneys representing the plaintiffs say they will seek maximum damages, with some legal experts estimating combined payouts could reach hundreds of millions if judgments go against him. And even if he manages to evade prison for long, these civil battles could financially and publicly destroy him. But the most chilling part, new names keep emerging every week. People from his distant past are resurfacing with stories that paint a haunting portrait of a man who believed he was untouchable, and while his lawyers scramble to prepare for this avalanche of legal warfare, another betrayal is brewing from deep within his own team. While Diddy sits behind bars awaiting sentencing, his fortress of loyalty is collapsing from within. For decades, his empire was guarded by tight-lipped managers, bodyguards, and personal assistants who feared his wrath as much as they respected his wealth. But now, with lawsuits stacking up and public disgust reaching boiling point, many of those insiders are breaking their silence. Reports suggest at least 4 former employees have already spoken with prosecutors, providing details that go beyond what the public has heard so far. One longtime security guard, known for his intimidating build and presence at Diddy's private parties, reportedly told legal teams about routine freak-off nights, where female escorts and sometimes male entertainers were flown in under strict NDA. Their phones were confiscated at the entrance. According to these insiders, the parties were more than just wild entertainment, they were exercises in control, humiliation, and dominance. Another assistant, who worked with Diddy for nearly 6 years, claimed she often found herself cleaning up after disturbing incidents. In one leaked deposition snippet, she described seeing a woman leave his penthouse, barely conscious, unable to walk without support, and reeking of alcohol, and strange chemical smells. Even members of his recording studio team are talking. One producer described Diddy's behavior as godlike mania, saying he flaunted his power over everyone, from staff to artists, making them feel that their careers, or even their safety, depended entirely on his mood. Legal analysts believe these employee statements could strengthen both ongoing civil lawsuits and potential future criminal charges if deeper trafficking networks or drug distribution operations are uncovered. But, beyond courtrooms, these revelations are shattering the public's perception of a man who once stood as the king of hip-hop. Fans are horrified, insiders are scrambling to protect themselves, and sponsors are running for the exit. And just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral any further out of his control, an even more sinister theory has emerged. As the world watches Diddy's empire crumble, a darker theory has begun circulating online, sparking intense debates on social media and YouTube forums. Some fans believe these lawsuits and criminal charges are only the surface of a far bigger conspiracy, one rooted in decades of secret deals, covert threats, and hidden money trails that protected his kingdom from total collapse. Rumors suggest that Diddy has offshore accounts scattered across the Caribbean, funneling millions through shell companies. These aren't just tax avoidance setups. According to investigative journalists, they allege that these secret accounts funded hush money payments to former partners, artists, or employees who threatened to expose his lifestyle, from violent outbursts to humiliating rituals at private parties. One former Bad Boy Records executive hinted anonymously that he always had backup cash stashed away, in case lawsuits got too close or someone powerful needed paying off. These claims remain unverified, but fit with long-standing whispers in the industry about Diddy's untouchable aura. But there's an even more chilling layer to this conspiracy: talk of witness intimidation. Legal insiders point to subtle but unsettling tactics used by powerful men facing such charges: unexpected car break-ins, anonymous threats, or vague warnings to families. While no concrete evidence has emerged directly linking Diddy to intimidation attempts, Some plaintiffs' attorneys have requested extra security for their clients ahead of upcoming depositions. Meanwhile, leaked court filings reveal that federal investigators are quietly reviewing his broader financial and managerial networks to determine whether systematic hush money payments constitute further criminal activity. These conspiracy theories are fueling an online frenzy, with Reddit threads exploding under titles like "Is Diddy's empire bigger and darker than Epstein's?" and "What secrets are still hidden in his vaults?" But for prosecutors, it's not about theories, it's about evidence, credibility, and courage from those willing to speak up despite fear, because what comes next could finally dismantle the myth of invincibility Diddy has built for over 30 years. And as the investigations widen, the next revelation might be even more shocking than what has come before. Behind the tinted windows of Diddy's legal team's headquarters in Manhattan, panic is quietly brewing. Sources close to the defense strategy have revealed that his lawyers are now exploring every possible loophole to reduce his upcoming sentence, or even overturn the convictions entirely. One shocking tactic reportedly involves attempting to discredit key witnesses by digging deep into their pasts, looking for any minor legal trouble, financial debt, or conflicting testimony. Legal analysts say this is a common high-profile defense strategy, often criticized for traumatizing victims again. But for Diddy's lawyers, the stakes are life-altering. Another bold move in the works is an appeal on procedural grounds. Insiders claim his attorneys will argue that certain evidence was prejudicial or improperly admitted, including testimonies about his alleged past violent behavior unrelated to the prostitution charges. If successful, this could grant a retrial or force prosecutors to renegotiate the sentencing terms. But the most desperate measure is what some call the celebrity mercy plea. This strategy involves leveraging public goodwill, past philanthropic donations, and character witnesses from the entertainment elite to sway the judge towards leniency. Rumors suggest that several hip-hop icons, music executives, and even sports stars have been approached to draft statements describing Diddy as a mentor, visionary, and positive influence in urban communities. However, critics argue that this narrative is nothing but smoke and mirrors, attempting to erase the trauma that dozens of alleged victims have described under oath. Women's rights groups have already vowed to protest outside the court during sentencing if such tactics are used. In the background, prosecutors remain unmoved, with one insider stating bluntly, "It's too late to repaint his image. The evidence speaks for itself." Yet Diddy's team continues to fight every single day, hoping that even a reduction of a few years could keep his empire alive until his release. But what they might not realize is that the next blow coming from civil court could devastate him beyond prison walls. As Diddy's legal team battles to shorten his prison time, a new storm is brewing quietly in civil courtrooms across the country. Over 50 lawsuits have already been filed, and insiders say more are being drafted each week. These aren't minor claims, they are multi-million to billion-dollar suits that could obliterate his financial empire, no matter how long or short his prison sentence ends up being. At the center of these lawsuits are allegations of rape, sexual assault, drugging, and extreme psychological abuse. Some plaintiffs have even accused Diddy of orchestrating a culture of fear, manipulation, and coercion within his circle, claims that paint a chilling portrait of power gone unchecked. Law firms representing the alleged victims are moving aggressively. One insider revealed that they are seeking not just personal damages, but punitive damages designed to send a message to every wealthy and powerful individual who believes they are untouchable. Analysts say if even half of these suits succeed, Diddy could lose hundreds of millions, forcing asset liquidation of his real estate holdings, music catalog, brand investments, and luxury vehicles. Some industry observers believe these lawsuits may also trigger criminal investigations in other states, especially as new plaintiffs come forward with claims tied to different jurisdictions. If that happens, the potential for further charges and even longer prison time grows exponentially. Meanwhile, victims' advocacy groups are pressuring brands and music platforms to cut ties with Diddy's business ventures entirely, aiming to starve his empire of cash flow during these legal battles. But while his team remains locked in damage control, Diddy himself reportedly spends his days in a darkened jail cell, refusing most visitors, and rarely speaking during attorney meetings. To some, it's the mark of a man calculating his next move. To others, it's the silent collapse of a once feared king. What's certain is this: his upcoming sentencing is only the beginning. The courtroom fights ahead could last years, with every new testimony threatening to expose secrets he thought were buried forever. But there's one question that no one, not his team, not his victims, not even his family, seems ready to answer. What happens if Diddy finally decides to speak out from behind bars? If you think Diddy is sitting silently in his cell, just waiting for his fate, think again. Rumors have exploded from inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center that Diddy has been crafting a strategy that could send shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry. Sources close to his legal team claim he has begun hinting at revealing explosive secrets about other music moguls, celebrities, politicians, and even prosecutors, secrets that could destroy careers overnight. According to these insiders, Diddy believes that if he's going down, he will not go alone. One attorney familiar with the case described his mindset bluntly. He's been a gatekeeper for decades. He knows where everybody is buried, what every celebrity fears becoming public, and he's not afraid to use that information as leverage if his sentencing isn't favorable. Reports suggest Diddy is considering writing a tele-memoir from prison, documenting the hidden deals, the underground parties, the drug networks, and the alleged trafficking rings that operate in shadows. Publishers have already discreetly signaled interest, offering tens of millions for exclusive rights if such a manuscript materializes, but his threats to expose secrets aren't just aimed at Hollywood. Some claim that powerful political connections dating back to the late 1990s are also at risk. Allegedly, Diddy has preserved recordings, photos, and documents that prove these relationships and their darkest transactions. Whether these are authentic remains unverified, but the fear is real, and it's not just Diddy's threats that are worrying the industry. Legal experts say that if he begins naming names in civil depositions or public statements, prosecutors may have no choice but to open investigations into those individuals too, unleashing a legal domino effect with unpredictable consequences. For decades, insiders whispered that Diddy was untouchable because of what he knew about others. Now, as he sits behind steel bars, stripped of his empire and dignity, the world waits to see if he will play his last and most dangerous card. Because if he does, everything we thought we knew about the music industry's power players could come crashing down overnight. And in the next part, we'll uncover the one secret that insiders claim Diddy has been saving as his nuclear option, a secret so dangerous it could ruin multiple billion-dollar empires in one stroke. Behind bars, Diddy's reputation has been reduced to whispers in cold prison corridors, but according to people who've known him for decades, he is holding on to a single secret that could ignite chaos across music, politics, and finance in one swift revelation. Insiders refer to it as the Vault. Allegedly, throughout his years as a record executive and mogul, Diddy kept meticulous archives of sensitive information, video recordings, confidential contracts, photos from private parties, phone call recordings, and coded financial records, all stored digitally in offshore servers. Rumors suggest that this vault is encrypted under multiple layers of protection and only accessible through instructions passed to a trusted attorney if anything happens to him. One of his former security consultants hinted at the nature of these files in a 2024 interview, stating, "He never trusted anyone fully. He always believed that having leverage on people kept him safe. That leverage is now his last bargaining chip." But here's where it gets even darker, sources claim. The vault includes evidence of underground trafficking networks that involve not just celebrities, but also international businessmen, diplomats, and political donors. Allegations suggest that some of these individuals attended secret parties that blended business deals with unspeakable acts. If Diddy decides to hand over these files to prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence, it could spark global investigations and obliterate the powerful public images of countless names. One entertainment attorney summarized it chillingly. If what's in that vault is real, we're not talking about a scandal. We're talking about an extinction-level event for the credibility of the American elite. This possibility terrifies not just celebrities, but executives, financiers, and politicians alike. Some have reportedly begun reaching out through private channels to discourage Diddy from releasing any information, offering financial settlements, protection promises, or silent lobbying in his favor for sentencing leniency. However, those who know Diddy best warn, he doesn't bluff. If he thinks betrayal has come full circle, he'll press that button without a second thought. Next, we'll break down how Diddy allegedly built this web of secrets over decades, and why every powerful figure he crossed paths with now fears the day his vault is opened. So how did Diddy build this fortress of secrets over the decades? It all started back in the mid-90s, when Bad Boy Records exploded into a billion-dollar empire almost overnight. Diddy wasn't just building a music label, he was constructing a network of influence. From record producers to club owners, from street-level distributors to Wall Street investors, he developed an ecosystem where everyone owed him a favor, a cut, or a secret. Former Bad Boy Records executives have described how Diddy insisted that every major party, private recording session, and contract negotiation be recorded or documented. Officially, this was for security and legal protection. Unofficially, insiders say it was part of a master plan to accumulate insurance against betrayal. By the early 2000s, when his reach extended into high fashion, spirits, and tech ventures, Diddy was no longer just a mogul. He became the gatekeeper of exclusive celebrity circles. Rappers, singers, actors, athletes, politicians, they all knew that an invite to his parties came with unspoken rules, indulge without inhibition, but never cross the man who owned the room. It's been said that some of the biggest hits and brand deals in the industry only came to life because Diddy possessed footage or information that could destroy a competitor's career. An anonymous source from Revolt TV, his media company, revealed, "If you think this is just music beef and studio footage, you're wrong. We're talking offshore business deals, executive betrayals, political endorsements, and dark party footage that can't see the light of day without ending multiple careers instantly. But despite all his power, he knew it would never be enough to keep everyone loyal forever. That's why, rumors claim, he kept expanding his personal archive, always adding new files, new footage, and new digital keys. He was playing a game with no exit, just infinite layers of leverage and fear. Coming up next, how this network of secrets turned into a prison of paranoia for Diddy himself, trapping him in a life where every friend became a potential threat. As the years passed, Diddy's fortress of secrets slowly morphed into a prison of paranoia. According to former employees, by 2010, his private life was dominated by surveillance systems, security teams trained like intelligence agencies, and strict, non-disclosure agreements for anyone who set foot in his mansions or yachts. Every conversation, every phone call, every visitor was documented and vetted. One longtime house staff member reportedly described the environment as living inside a mafia compound, but with rap music echoing through marble halls. She said, there were rooms in his mansion where staff weren't even allowed to clean unless escorted by armed guards, rooms filled with locked cabinets, vaults, and hard drives. Close friends began noticing he would change phone numbers weekly, sometimes using burner phones even to call his own lawyers. He became obsessed with the idea that someone within his inner circle was plotting to leak his deepest secrets for the right price or protection deal. Psychologists who've studied powerful celebrity figures suggest this level of paranoia isn't uncommon when people accumulate wealth, fame, and scandal at the same time. But Diddy took it further. Rumors claim he hired private counterintelligence experts to sweep his properties for hidden microphones and GPS trackers every month. Some say he even tested loyalty by intentionally leaking small lies about himself to see who ran to the press. But despite these extreme precautions, cracks still formed. An ex-security chief, speaking under condition of anonymity, once revealed he stopped trusting anyone. Every guest, every lover, every deal partner, he believed they were there to betray him. That's why his parties kept getting darker. He thought control was safety, but it just made him lonelier and more paranoid. Coming up next, the dark transformation of Diddy's legendary parties, and the shocking underground rituals that allegedly turned his empire into a cult-like kingdom of fear. Behind the closed gates of Diddy's sprawling estates, his infamous parties transformed from wild celebrations into something far more disturbing. In the early 2000s, his gatherings were known for A-list celebrity appearances, endless champagne, and neon-lit dance floors vibrating to unreleased tracks. But insiders say that by the mid-2010s, his parties became coded events, requiring secret invites, special passwords, and contracts forbidding guests from revealing what they saw. One former model, under an alias, told a podcast host in 2021, "At first I thought it was glamorous. Then I realized there were back rooms where people weren't allowed to bring their phones. Rooms with security guards outside. If you went in, you came out silent and pale. Nobody talked about it, ever." Reports claim these exclusive rooms were decorated with dim red lighting, plush velvet walls, and thick, soundproof doors. Some allege that ritual-like acts took place, not in a supernatural sense, but in the psychological domination of attendees. Guests would leave shaken, whispering about freak-offs, forced performances, and offers that blurred consent entirely. Rumors spread that Diddy used these gatherings as loyalty tests. Musicians desperate for a feature, producers wanting a contract, influencers yearning for a viral moment. They allegedly faced a chilling ultimatum: participate, or remain banished from his network forever. And those who refused. One former Bad Boy Records intern said, "You were erased, like you never existed." If you turned down an invite or said no to his private requests, your career would flatline overnight. No calls returned, no bookings, nothing. While many guests left smiling, posting photos in glittering halls, others departed with a haunted look in their eyes, never speaking about what they witnessed. Next, we expose how Diddy's underground influence extended beyond parties and music into the realms of politicians, billionaires, and covert deals that funded his darkest secrets. While most believe Diddy's power ended with platinum records and industry deals, his influence reached far beyond music into boardrooms, courtrooms, and even political circles. Reports claim that during his peak years, Diddy forged secret alliances with influential politicians and billionaires. Some say he donated heavily to campaigns, earning not only public gratitude but discreet favors behind the scenes. One leaked email from 2016, unverified but widely discussed among hip-hop blogs, suggested that a high-profile senator had thanked Diddy for keeping certain guests entertained during the conference week. The vague wording raised eyebrows among journalists, investigating whether those entertainment arrangements crossed legal or ethical lines. Rumors also swirled about Diddy hosting private gatherings at luxury Caribbean resorts, where billionaires, artists, and lawmakers would arrive by private jet. Sources close to his former staff allege those trips weren't just for fun. They were strategy meetings, sealed by extravagant after-parties where everyone owed him a favor by sunrise. Insiders claim Diddy's real empire wasn't built on record sales, but on these quiet, shadow deals, trading secrets, leveraging scandals, and gathering compromat to ensure loyalty. One former security advisor reportedly said, "He knew everyone's weakness. That's how he stayed untouchable for decades." But cracks began forming as the digital age made it harder to hide. Leaked DMs and whistleblowers started revealing small pieces of these networks, exposing questionable transactions and naming powerful figures who once vowed loyalty to him. And just when fans thought they knew everything about the mogul who brought Bad Boy Records to life. Up next, Section 3 Part 7 uncovers the final blow, how these alliances began to collapse, who betrayed him first, and why his empire crumbled faster than anyone could have imagined. Despite his airtight grip on allies and secrets, every empire eventually falls from within. For Diddy, betrayal came from those he trusted most. According to insiders, the first cracks appeared when a longtime manager, once fiercely loyal, switched sides. Rumors suggest this manager handed over hundreds of confidential emails and voice notes to federal investigators, detailing financial mismanagement, hush money payments, and coded communications with powerful figures. Another former executive assistant, who worked with Diddy for over a decade, allegedly testified in secret depositions about his hidden offshore accounts, luxury purchases funneled through shell companies, and systematic intimidation of staff who threatened to go public, but the final blow came from within his own family circle. Reports claim that a distant relative, driven by personal grievances and overlooked promises, leaked private videos and legal documents to investigative journalists. The revelations shattered any remaining illusions of his innocence in the public eye. He built his empire on loyalty and fear, a former staff member said, but once fear fades, loyalty disappears too. As the leaks snowballed, major brands quietly severed ties, politicians distanced themselves, and former allies rushed to release statements denying any deep involvement. Within weeks, the mogul who once dominated headlines for music and fashion was now making headlines for charges, lawsuits, and humiliation. And while fans argued about whether he deserved the downfall or was just another powerful man targeted by the media, his closest circle knew one thing: this collapse wasn't orchestrated by haters or the government, it was his own people, the ones who knew everything, that finally brought his kingdom to its knees. When federal agents raided Diddy's luxury penthouse and recording studios, they weren't just looking for drugs or hidden cash. They came with sealed warrants targeting classified files and hard drives rumored to contain information far beyond his own crimes. According to insiders close to the investigation, the FBI discovered encrypted folders labeled with cryptic codes and first names of major celebrities, politicians, and business tycoons. What exactly was in these files? Sources claim they included high-resolution videos, voice recordings, and legal documents connected to everything from secret deals with foreign investors to surveillance footage of private gatherings at his mansion. Investigators were shocked to find documents outlining hush agreements with rising artists, where payments were funneled through third-party accounts to keep potential lawsuits buried forever. Even more explosive were the alleged recordings capturing phone calls with public officials, discussing donations and backroom favors that could raise serious ethical and legal questions. One federal agent reportedly told a journalist off-record, "This isn't just about one celebrity's downfall, it's about exposing an entire network that's been operating for decades under the radar." Despite tight restrictions on leaks, fragments of these discoveries have begun to circulate online, with conspiracy forums speculating that these files could trigger the biggest entertainment scandal of the decade. But as shocking as these revelations were, there was something even darker hidden within the folders, something that made seasoned investigators recoil in silence. Buried deep within the encrypted folders were files labeled simply private sessions. According to insiders who spoke under condition of anonymity, these weren't music files or unreleased tracks. They were graphic recordings of secret parties and gatherings hosted at Diddy's mansions and rented villas across Miami and Los Angeles, investigators say. These videos allegedly showed high-profile guests, industry executives, and influencers engaging in what one agent described as acts that could permanently end their careers overnight. It wasn't just the sexual content that alarmed authorities. Some clips reportedly depicted extreme intoxication, unconscious individuals, and coercive scenarios, raising concerns about consent and criminal liability for all involved. The files were meticulously organized, each folder tagged with dates, locations, and initials of the guests featured. Analysts believe this level of archiving wasn't just vanity or personal record-keeping, it appeared strategic, a way to hold leverage over powerful people who feared exposure. But what chilled investigators even more was an unmarked file, found hidden behind layers of password encryption. Its contents have not been publicly confirmed, but leaks suggest it contained financial ledgers and communication logs linking party attendees to offshore accounts, illicit business payments, and potential blackmail transactions. One former FBI profiler described it bluntly. These weren't just parties. They were traps designed to collect secrets and ensure loyalty. If these allegations are true, they paint a portrait of a man who built not just an empire of music, but an empire of secrets, secrets powerful enough to manipulate billionaires and silence accusers with a single phone call. That as news of these encrypted files spread quietly among Hollywood insiders, a chilling panic set in. Talent agents began receiving frantic calls from their celebrity clients, demanding answers about whether their names appeared in the seized drives. Producers, executives, and sports stars linked to Diddy's inner circle scrambled to contact lawyers for emergency damage control strategies. Some tried to distance themselves publicly, while others sent private emissaries to gather intel on what exactly the FBI had uncovered. One entertainment attorney told The Guardian anonymously, "You have people in Los Angeles right now who aren't sleeping. Their livelihoods, reputations, even freedom could depend on what's in those videos." Rumors swirled that a major streaming service quietly shelved a documentary featuring several guests named in preliminary leak lists. Music collaborations were paused, brand deals reevaluated, and at least one major record label board convened an emergency meeting to assess potential fallout if one of its flagship artists was exposed. It wasn't just celebrities feeling the tremors. Political operatives, tech entrepreneurs, and social media moguls feared their appearances at Diddy's exclusive events might have been captured too. Many had attended under the assumption these gatherings were just parties, unaware that discreet cameras rolled behind tinted mirrors and hidden shelving. But the most shocking rumor circulating among these panicked elites was that some files included voice memos and voicemails implicating guests in activities far darker than just drug use or sexual scandals. Insiders claimed that if the full contents leaked, it wouldn't just cancel careers. It could spark criminal investigations, IRS probes, and public disgrace on a scale unseen since the darkest days of Hollywood's #meets-reckoning. As federal prosecutors combed through the encrypted drives, speculation grows that Diddy himself may have orchestrated these recordings for leverage all along. One former Bad Boy Records security contractor, speaking under anonymity, described Diddy as a man obsessed with insurance policies. He'd record everything: meetings, private phone calls, after parties, all of it. His mindset was, if you cross me, I'll bury you with your own secrets. This tactic, while morally disturbing, isn't unique in elite circles. Intelligence agencies call it compromising material gathered to control rivals. But in Diddy's case, the scale is breathtaking. From whispered recordings of artists complaining about label contracts to voicemails between politicians and their mistresses, the FBI now sits on a goldmine of dark truths. Analysts suggest that Diddy could use these files to negotiate a lighter sentence, potentially threatening to release them publicly if prosecutors don't offer him a deal. Some insiders even claim his legal team has already hinted at the damage these files could inflict on national reputations if their client is pushed too far. But others warn that such blackmail, if proven, could trigger further criminal charges for obstruction and extortion, effectively ending any hopes of walking out of prison alive. And while the media focuses on his possible 5 to 20-year sentencing window, behind closed doors, elite attorneys are far more concerned about what Diddy might reveal to save himself. A powerful media executive allegedly told a colleague this week, if those tapes drop, it will make Epstein's list look like child's play. While prosecutors build their case, Diddy's once loyal inner circle is splintering under the pressure. For years, his entourage remained silent, bound by NDAs, paychecks, and fear. But now, fear of prison outweighs fear of him. One former manager has reportedly begun cooperation talks with federal investigators. Another longtime driver is said to be sharing detailed accounts of private jets, packed with models and suitcases stuffed with cash for undisclosed transactions, and the betrayals don't stop there. Rumors suggest one of Diddy's closest business Panya's has already handed over a hard drive containing encrypted financial records that could expose money laundering networks tied to his brand empire, insiders say. These partners see no other way out. Facing their own potential indictments, their only bargaining chip is information, and Diddy is the ultimate prize. A retired Bad Boy Records executive told Rolling Stone, he treated everyone like pawns. Paid them? Yes, but kept them under his thumb. Now those pawns are sacrificing their king to survive. Even his longtime attorney is rumored to be strategizing an exit, as whispers spread that Diddy's legal bills are months overdue, and financiers are backing away from funding his defense. For a man who built an empire on loyalty enforced by fear, this unraveling is the greatest betrayal imaginable. Beyond the velvet ropes of his clubs and the platinum plaques on his walls, lies Diddy's most guarded secret, a labyrinth of offshore accounts scattered across global tax havens. For years, investigators struggled to trace his money trail. His business empire spans liquor brands, record labels, clothing lines, and real estate across New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. But recently leaked financial documents revealed shell companies registered in the British Virgin Islands, Panama, and Cyprus. each linking back to trusts under false names. Analysts believe these offshore vaults hold hundreds of millions in hidden wealth, protecting him from lawsuits, taxes, and financial scrutiny. Some speculate this money funded covert deals, hush payments, and payouts to settle potential claims before they ever reached courtrooms, but it's what lies in the encrypted folders of these accounts that worries investigators most. Whispers suggest recordings, contracts, and digital blackmail material were stored, alongside financial records and arsenal, designed to keep anyone from ever turning on him. Former associates describe it as a fortress of secrets. Diddy wasn't just rich, one insider said. He was untouchable because he kept everyone's dirt locked up alongside his millions. Now, with his empire under siege, authorities are moving swiftly to crack open these offshore vaults. If successful, they could uncover not just tax fraud but an entire network of illicit deals that fueled his rise to power. Locked inside his cell at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, Diddy remains silent to the media, but behind the bars he's far from powerless. Sources close to his legal team reveal that in these final months before sentencing, he's orchestrating his most critical moves yet. His attorneys are working around the clock, not just preparing appeals but quietly negotiating settlements with key plaintiffs in the 50-plus civil suits waiting to tear apart his remaining wealth. Insiders claim he's also shifting assets to irrevocable trusts and preparing power of attorney transfers to family members he trusts most. Some allege he's even funneling funds to longtime loyalists to ensure their silence, worried that if just one former associate flips, everything he built could come crashing down. And in an even more chilling twist, there are whispers that Diddy is creating dead man's switches, digital files set to release automatically if he's ever harmed or sentenced for decades. No one knows exactly what these files contain, but speculation ranges from damaging recordings of powerful industry figures to contracts exposing decades of secret deals. A former Bad Boy Records executive put it simply, Sean's not worried about prison, he's worried about losing control of the narrative. Those files keep him safer than any security guard ever did. The countdown to Diddy's sentencing has begun, but if you think he's sitting quietly in his cell, you're wrong. Every morning in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center starts the same. At dawn, guards do their rounds. But in Diddy's isolated wing, rumors swirled that he's awake hours before, pacing in meditation, whispering verses from his old tracks like secret prayers. One correctional officer anonymously told reporters that Diddy refuses breakfast most days, instead requesting only water and scribbling on yellow legal pads from sunrise until noon. It's like he's writing a manifesto, the officer said. Whatever it is, he guards it with his life. Some insiders claim these writings are lyrics for an upcoming album to drop after sentencing, a final attempt to control his legacy from prison. Others believe they're letters to his children, preparing them for the worst if he's sentenced to a decade or more. But perhaps the most unnerving rumor is that he's drafting coded statements to send out through his attorneys, messages that industry allies will instantly understand, instructions for secret deals, asset transfers, and leverage plays to keep his empire intact no matter what. While Diddy sits in his cell, his lawyers are working around the clock, not just to reduce his sentence, but to protect his billion-dollar empire. Insiders say his defense team is plotting multiple appeals simultaneously. One focuses on potential judicial bias during the trial. Another challenges procedural decisions, aiming to overturn convictions entirely or force a retrial. But there's more. Reports claim his attorneys are in secret talks with international business partners to restructure his stakes in major holdings, from liquor brands to entertainment ventures, so that even if he's locked away, the cash continues to flow. One entertainment lawyer told Variety anonymously, if he serves 5 or 10 years, he won't come out broke. His team is aggressively restructuring everything so lawsuits can't drain his net worth. And here's the ruthless part. Some sources claim Diddy is planning to move parts of his empire offshore, making it almost impossible for civil case claimants to seize his assets. Whether these strategies succeed or not, they show one thing clearly: behind those thick concrete walls, Diddy isn't living any celebrity fantasy. Sources inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center reveal his life is under strict and almost paranoid surveillance. He's being kept under what guards call high-risk protective protocols. That means no mingling with general inmates, limited time outside his cell, and a 24/7 watch to prevent any sudden incidents, settled harm, targeted attacks, or mysterious disappearances. Why such extreme measures? One correctional officer allegedly told Page 6, "We've seen big names go down before, but there's an unusual amount of caution around Combs. It's almost like they fear outside retaliation, or inside secrets leaking out." Some guards whisper that the fear isn't just for his safety, but for what he knows. If his legal battles continue to uncover deeper ties with powerful figures, there could be a real risk of silencing attempts from inside or out. Meanwhile, insiders say Diddy's demeanor has changed completely. The once swaggering mogul is reportedly quiet, withdrawn, and spending long hours staring into space. Is he struggling, Or finally feeling the gravity of his downfall? While Diddy sits confined in a stark cell, his multi-million-dollar empire is bleeding out faster than anyone expected. Insiders reveal that brand partners are fleeing overnight. Ciroc Vodka, once inseparable from Diddy's flashy lifestyle, has quietly pulled back marketing collaborations, while several music streaming platforms are considering reducing promotional placements of his catalog due to mounting public backlash. But the damage doesn't stop at brand deals. Within his companies, morale is collapsing. Employees at his music label, once fiercely loyal, are reportedly scrambling for new jobs. One staffer told Variety, "We used to think his power could shield us. Now everyone's afraid of losing paychecks, afraid of getting subpoenaed, afraid of the media showing up at our homes." His personal team, from publicists to lawyers, is caught in a desperate damage control loop, juggling civil lawsuits, frozen accounts, and PR fires erupting hourly on social media. And while they battle to keep his empire afloat, Diddy remains silent, locked away from the crisis he created. But the worst might still be looming. Behind the closed doors of Diddy's trial, there were witness testimonies so graphic and damning that even seasoned court reporters felt rattled. According to leaked court documents, at least 3 witnesses gave sealed testimonies detailing alleged underground parties where powerful industry figures gathered, and where Diddy allegedly used his influence to coerce attendees into silence about what really went on behind penthouse walls. One anonymous witness described being flown out from Atlanta for what was pitched as a music video audition, only to end up in what she called a nightmare disguised as a VIP party. There were drugs, there were cameras, and there were people there I never thought I'd see in that context. He made it clear, you either went along with it or you left with nothing. These testimonies were never unsealed for public record, largely due to legal settlements and fear of defamation lawsuits. But prosecutors still hold them in sealed files, ready to deploy if needed in upcoming civil cases. And here's where it gets darker. Legal analysts suggest these hidden statements could destroy his defense strategy entirely if the plaintiffs' attorneys decide to subpoena them. Some victims' lawyers have hinted that these files will become the cornerstone of their upcoming suits. But even if Diddy escapes the harshest prison term, his empire may never recover. His reputation is tarnished, his endorsements evaporating, and the once glowing aura of untouchable fame now replaced with whispers of a man who built his kingdom on secrets darker than anyone imagined. If you found this deep dive shocking, subscribe right now, because we're uncovering every layer of Diddy's secret world, from hidden settlements to upcoming lawsuits and explosive behind-the-scenes testimonies you won't hear on mainstream news. Like and share if you believe no celebrity is above accountability, and comment below. Do you think Diddy will walk free, or will his past finally catch up to him forever? Stay tuned. The next video will expose even more untold stories inside the world of music's most controversial kingpin.